r/AskReddit, what lie did your parents tell you that you believed until you were older? Gammon for 2 hours is addiction. They still tell that babies came from the sky by God if you were good. That they kept my birthday money safe. They told me chocolate is really spicy so I wouldn't eat their chocolate. If you don't pray, you're going to H. We are just like your friends, ha ha ha. That chunk of fat in baked beans was a potato. And that it was good luck to eat it. I ate that fat potato for years before realizing that they love me. Turning the dome light in the car on was illegal while you were driving. My mom said the AU sauce she made was a family recipe. Me being a kid never questioned it. Flash forward to my late 20s and my wife made AU sauce and it tasted exactly like my mom's. I asked my wife if my mom gave her the recipe and I was told it's a McCormick packet. I called my mom right then and there and was told the truth, though my mom claims she thought I knew she was joking. Having the light on in the car was illegal on Mayo. It's all going to be alright. When I was a young child I asked my mom how people transport their cars when they move to an overseas country. She told me that they just attach it and fly it along behind the plane. I fully believed this until I was way too old to actually believe this. My mother always said ladies didn't fart. I found out that was a lie when she farted in front of me. My 5-year-old brain almost exploded. It wasn't possible. That there is a God. Took me till like 25 to figure it out. That they love me. My father hated me and that's why he left my mother and I, and that's why I couldn't go see him. Turns out my mother is just a vindictive C who failed at baby trapping my father. Their love was unconditional. My mom didn't know if I was gonna like cooked jackfruit the first time I ate it, so she told me it was a fish and I happily gobbled it up. I was 6 then. The myth broke when I was 12. That they'd always be there for me. Turned 18 and bam. On my own. Not me, but a friend of mine's brother was vegetarian since a young age, maybe 6 or so. Up until the age of 16, he didn't realize mince was made from meat. His parents didn't tell him on purpose so he would continue eating their spaghetti bolognese. That a giant croach had stolen my yo-yo. I had accidentally nearly strangled myself with a string so they took it away and made up that story. I believed for an embarrassing number of years. That the dog that we adopted that ended up biting my little brother went to farm. It honestly only clicked a few months ago what actually happened to him. My parents told us that you could only have an ice cream sundae on Sundays. They come from a special machine that was only turned on once a week. A local ice cream chain used to call their version a fundy and we were allowed to eat those. So we just believed they were governed by different rules. We maintained the family sundae myth with the next generation. My nieces and nephews all believe us implicitly and I feel kind of bad. That my grandpa was a maths genius, because he once gave me an answer to a question without him knowing it was correct. I was amazed by his ingenuity. My parents went along with it even though he has no idea of what he had done. Joseph Smith found and translated some golden plates from God that were buried in the side of a mountain. I don't know, sure, why not? Ma'am told me if I shaved past my knee, my PS would grow down my legs. I'm 27 and I still second guess myself when shaving. That alcohol is actually cow pee. So if you want to drink cow pee, go ahead. I always thought it was just people getting used to the idea of drinking cow pee as you get older and that's why alcohol is so popular. I mean, we drink TTY juice from a cow, right? Turning the light on in the backseat was illegal. I just wanted to play my Game Boy. You should trust adults to know what they are talking about. That they were actually my parents. My fish ran away. For whatever reason, my mom basically told me that if you touched raw meat, You'd get sick and die. She never got sick and died, so I don't know why I believed her, but I remained vigilant about not touching raw meat until college. I saw a boyfriend cooking and I was like, don't do that. It's dangerous, and he, rightly, looked at me like I was nuts. That even when I was little and literally had no way of getting a job or making money, if I gave them the little money I could have got on holidays or days, they would pay me back. I swear for years, 2 or 3 years, I kept a mental log. I eventually asked my dad about the money. You know what he told me? He pays for the food on the table and a roof over my head. That's literally his payback. I was so hurt after this SMH. They kept a large crucifix on my bedroom wall. As a kid, I thought it was creepy with the body of Christ, crown of thorns and behead. My parents said, Jesus is looking down on you at night. So be a good boy and don't do anything sinful. That budget baked beans were the same as Heinz. No, they're not, ma'am. That you're supposed to get married, have kids, and work a job until you retire. And that everyone does that or they're not normal. My kitten got knocked up when I was about 9. I come home from school and she had 3 kittens, a black one, a ginger one and a tortoise shell. We already had 3 older cats of the same colors. When I was 15 in Christmas, I found out she actually had more kittens and mum got rid of the others. Then when I was 17 on Mother's Day, my brother told me she drowned them in the creek, but I later found out she actually put them in the freezer. That they loved each other. Not until I was older I realized that that wasn't true, and later my mom confirmed it. 1990-ish. Computers and the internet are not a viable career path. You're going to become a doctor. My mom works in a psych ward and told me that she had a patient who thinks he is an orange, and everyone is out to peel his skin off and eat him because of a cannabis psychosis. Then I tried weed in my teens and have been a stoner for years now. Haven't turned into a fruit yet. My dad told me he would come back later. Bruised mushy bananas have more sugar. 1 sheep 2 sheep, since it was 1 foot 2 feet and 1 goose 2 geese, it made perfect sense to young me. That I had a cousin with the same name as me who lived in Florida. My parents always threatened me when I was misbehaving that they would trade me out with that cousin. I knew they were lying about that, but I was a teenager before I thought about it and realized this cousin didn't exist at all. Don't fucking laugh at me, but they made me believe that do good things to others and same will happen to you, but that popping your knuckles and joints automatically cause arthritis. I used to believe it as a kid, but realized my stepmom is full of S when it comes to this. There was a man who experimented by popping his knuckles on one hand and not the other for a long time, with no symptoms. That I was allergic to dogs. But in a way that I would only get an allergic reaction if I stayed in a place with a dog for more than 24 hours. That if you talk in the fishing boat it'll scare the fish away. I was at least late teens and saw a pro fisherman on TV yakking away to the camera while catching some seriously good fish when I realized my dad was lying. I called him out on it. He laughed and said we would talk constantly when he wanted to enjoy the peace of being on the water. My parents used to pretend the lights in the car were voice activated. I used to sit there shouting on, off, and my dad would be controlling the lights from a switch he had in the front seat. Took me a little while to realize. I was such a handsome boy. That beds don't get longer, just wider, so if they bought me a new one my feet would still hang off the end. If you don't study you're not gonna have a job. Computers will not make your salary. I used to think that if you are vacuuming, and you run the vacuum over the cord, it'll shock you. I was very cautious vacuuming until I realized it was BS at 11. My parents care about me. Hedgehogs grow on chestnut trees. The green pokey shell is the egg they hatched out from. That if I don't finish all my food then when I'm older my husband's face will be filled with pimples and super ugly. Basically, Do not leave scraps or your future husband will be even more ugly than you. My grandma used to say to me, don't play the piano or you'll wake up Auntie Winnie. As a kid I believed Auntie Winnie worked nights at the dump, so that's why I couldn't play the piano. Fast forward to today, there never was an Auntie Winnie and I realize I was a noisy little S growing up. Everyone on the internet is a serial killer that wants to come after you. That they didn't know what happened to my pellet rifle. I was like 30 when I was drinking with dad and asked, seriously though, you fucking found it and threw it away didn't you? And he just smiled and laughed, haha yeah. The more you sit at the computer, the easier you will get sick as an adult. My mom always told me that her great-grandmother was full-blooded Cherokee, so in like middle school I would talk about my Native American heritage BC. I thought it made me sound cool and exotic. Fast forward to a couple years ago, we did one of those ancestry DNA testing kits and turns out we are 100% without a doubt white AF. My mom was as surprised as I was to find this out. Apparently my grandma had been talking about our Cherokee blood for my mom's whole life, like 50 plus years, but my grandma was just making it up the whole time. That omelette is pizza. Yeah, I still hate my mom for not getting me real pizza ever. That I was loved and wanted. Turns out I would have been aborted if they could have afforded it. I would have had a big brother if it weren't for them too. It doesn't bother me much though, I'm cool with it. That they never replaced any of our pets after they died and pretended they didn't. I was joking about it with a friend and suddenly my dad looked very guilty. We kept a fish tank that wasn't doing so well and one day I came over and my fab fish was twice as big. He said that type of fish had growth spurts and now he was an adult. My granddad had this puffer fish hanging up for years and he told me he got it fishing in Turkey, which was not unbelievable as he was a fisherman. After around 15 years my gran confessed they got it at a market. My childhood was crushed. We can't get a cat because grandma is allergic and she would never be able to come visit. They just didn't want to get us kids a cat. Flash forward 25 years, I am allergic to cats and they adopted a D-cat. And they act like I'm being a drama queen when I say that maybe I will rent a hotel room or Airbnb next time I visit, because of my allergy. My mom obviously didn't want her around with the tooth fairy, so she told us the tooth fairy lost her license to handle bio-waste in our town. We believed mom because she was a dental ace and so she would know. When us older three informed the much younger two that this was a lie, my mom told them it was also a conflict of interest for the tooth fairy to come into our house since my mom worked for a dental office. And my mom wonders why we're a bunch of smarties. Drinking tap water would give you food poisoning. I drink it now every day. TBH, I kinda understand why, cause my mother grew up with lead pipes. Mom and dad love each other. My friends didn't believe me when I told them our goldfish lived for 3 years. Years later, I learned my friends were right. My mom told me that Christmas songs are illegal to sing before Thanksgiving. I believed it until I was about 12. My father told me that touching was a way to show love. I was 7 before I began to think this is not normal. Non-heterosexual people are evil. The amount of time it took me to get beyond that is not something I'm proud of. I believed, for probably 7 years, that my mom was turning 29 every year. She wasn't even turning 29 when she told me the first time. It's now a joke between us.